Guys, welcome to Serial at Midnight. My name is Heath, and this is part 2, the conclusion of a look at my complete Mill Creek Entertainment collection. Part 1 focused on where the companies come from, those big 50 movie packs, the public domain prints, and I believe that a lot of people think that that's who Mill Creek is. But hopefully, by the time this video is over, you'll understand why I call the company pop culture preservationists. You'll see where they are, where they're going, all the Blu-rays of stuff that they've been putting out. So I'm going to show you guys all that stuff. We'll get to that right after this. Alright guys, like I was saying at the top of the video, my focus for this video is to show you how Mill Creek has, I believe, gone from those 50 movie pack guys, mostly bad movies, to legitimate distributors. They are a budget label, and sometimes that comes with shortcomings, but I want to show you the progress that I see through my own collection, and that's why I've split this into 2 parts. Just as an example, I'm going to start with the Miami Vice complete series. Obviously, this came out on DVD years ago. The problems with the DVDs are that, first of all, well, they're not high definition, right? But they also didn't have the original music, or a lot of the original music had been cut. As far as I know, most, if not all, again, it might not be all, but most of the music has been restored here. Now, Mill Creek didn't actually have to license the music and track any of that stuff down. They are a distributor, and what that means is they will license the content for distribution from, like, this is Universal. So Universal has Miami Vice. They put it out on DVD years ago. They're done with it. And then at some point they decide they need to clean it up for HD, for streaming, for whatever. They get back the music rights for it, and then they say, okay, well, if someone wants to bid to get the rights to put these out on home video again, bidding is open. And Mill Creek is the studio that stepped up and took care of that. So this is one of my favorite releases. It's all 5 seasons. They look great, and having that music is fantastic. Similarly, Airwolf, great 80s series. If you're from my generation, you know Airwolf was awesome. They put out the complete Quantum Leap. This is all 5 seasons of Quantum Leap. That 70s show. Here's all 8 seasons of this show on Blu-ray with the music intact. Love this set. This is one of my favorites too. But my absolute favorite is Knight Rider. This show was so awesome when I was a kid, and I gotta say, some people might not think it holds up. For me, Knight Rider holds up super well. TV show-wise, I don't have a ton of TV shows from Mill Creek outside of the Blu-rays. I'm not crazy about the way they do things with it. So, like the Cosby Show, we don't have to talk about this, but they do these things where they do these, they've replaced the paper sleeves with these double-sided cardboard doolollies. I'm not wild about that, but when certain shows are so cheap, or when it's the only way to get a certain show, for instance, Coach, like this is the only way you can get the complete Coach, again, with the paper sleeve doolollies. You can't really complain. I got this from Ollie's Bargain Outlet with a coupon. I got it for like $18. So let's get into some Blu-rays. This is where my collection really comes alive. They have put out the Harryhausen Creature double feature. This is 20 Million Miles to Earth, and it came from beneath the sea. This is not a Blu-ray, but I love this so much. This is 100 Years of Horror, hosted by Christopher Lee. This is, I think, 26 half-hour episodes. These came out in the 90s. This was televised, I guess, on cable in the 90s. And each episode focuses on a horror. It can be like vampires or Frankenstein or genetic monsters, something like that. And they just basically use public domain footage to give you a rundown of the movies that feature those creatures. And honestly, by the time you're done with this thing, it is like a little film school in a box. Okay, recently they put out the Charles Bronson 4 movie collection. This has the Valachi paper, I don't know how you say it, The Stone Killer, Breakout, and Hard Times. 3 of these have been released by other companies before, and there's one that makes this exclusive and worth picking up. They put out the complete Jumanji animated series, all 3 seasons, 40 episodes. The complete series of SWAT. What I love about this release is that instead of stacking discs, each disc gets its own spindle, that's awesome. That's progress, and that's That's why I'm focusing also, like I wanted to split some of this stuff up, is because you can see progression. You can see how they're not just staying in the same place. You guys, You're the Hunter from the Future, one of my favorite Mill Creek releases of all time. This just came out earlier in 2018, and it's like, check out the slipcase. There, you want to talk about bumping up your game. We got a slipcase. We have different artwork on the actual Blu-ray case, and it has a brand new commentary from Reb Brown, who was also Captain America in those 70s Captain America movies. But this is really evidence of a company trying to do their best, trying to improve. Then we have these great movies. These are the Hammer double feature discs that they put out for their horror, the Hammer horror, I guess. But as you can see, I'm going to show you, this is where I talk about like room for improvement. They have misspelled the Gorgon on this disc. It's Gorgan. And on this disc, they have spelled, it's not the Curse of the Mummy's Tomb, it's the Curese, C-U-R-E-S-E. So we've got typos on the box art. I don't know if they ever fixed this. They probably did, at least in later pressings of this. But mistakes like this shouldn't happen. I think they know that they shouldn't happen. And frankly, I think Mill Creek is run by a very small group of people. Again, it's a budget label. And I think that they're really trying to do, like if you compare these releases to this, it's night and day. Now the movies are fine. Mill Creek doesn't do any cleanup work on their stuff. They just distribute what they get. So if something is given to them in high definition, that's what they put out. They'll put it out on Blu-ray, but they don't do any restoration work. So you can criticize their stuff for not looking fantastic. You can criticize the bit rate of the discs, compression, things like that, but you can't really criticize the transfers because they are a distributor. That's what they do. They don't remaster things, and that's why their stuff is so cheap. That's why you can get Blu-rays for like $8. So anyway, room for improvement, which they actually did with these two releases, which are their next Hammer Films double features. These are more of the psychological horror kind of a thing, but I don't think we have any typos. Never take candy from a stranger, scream of fear, maniac, die, die, my darling. I don't think there's any typos on here, and the movies look great, so I have no complaints. They put out Heartbreak Hotel, which is Elvis-centric movie. They put out a Blu-ray of The Last Action Hero. No one else in America put out a Blu-ray of The Last Action Hero. They did. So glad to have it. They put out The Lady from Shanghai, which is a fantastic film noir with Orson Welles. Rita Hayworth. I wrote a review for this. It's on serialatmidnight.com. I love this movie, and it looks fantastic. The Gamera series. Between these two discs, or it's not just discs, these two collections, you got the whole Gamera, the original Gamera series, or Gamera, however you want to say it, the Godzilla-type turtle Japanese monster movies. Between these two releases, it's the complete classic Gamera movies. The Replacement Killers. This might still be the only way to get the Replacement Killers on Blu-ray is through Mill Creek. That's why I bought this. It also has Truth or Consequences New Mexico on it, but I love the Replacement Killers. The Wild One, Marlon Brando. Oh, this is a good one. The Van Damme 5-movie collection. They gave us the Hardcore, Universal Soldier, The Return, Maximum Risk, Second in Command, and Double Team. So those are kind of, it balances out. You got a couple of them, and then you got a couple of that are really good. The Legend of Billie Jean. This is a fantastic 80s movie. This is a fantastic transfer. This is a great Blu-ray. Recently, we got A Study in Terror, which is another one of these. This is one of the, as I'm making this video, this just came out a few weeks ago. This is one of those that I think is really showing what they're capable of. So we've got an awesome slipcase. This is a 60s Sherlock Holmes movie. It's almost like a psychedelic Sherlock Holmes movie. Super saturated colors and everything. So we've got this cool slipcase, and then we've got the Blu-ray itself, which has different art. That's class. That's a good package, and you're getting these for under $10. You know, like $8, something like that. These are older Blu-ray releases for them. The Gun and Betty Lou's Handbag, Miami Rhapsody, My Father the Hero. They put out the complete series of Gidget. Now listen, you're like, what Gidget? Gidget, if you've seen the Gidget movies from the 50s, they're fantastic. Great beach movies. This was the spin-off series with Sally Field. The story of Gidget's really cool. She was like a surfer chick who kind of made it okay for girls to. She was a pioneer for women surfers, basically, and I think that's really cool. This is near to my heart. This is Crossbow, the complete series. This is another newer release from them this year. Crossbow was a show that came on in the early 90s. It was a syndicated show. I think it was a joint production, maybe with Canada and maybe some other countries. But it is Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves is my favorite movie of all time. It just hit me in the right place at the right time, and I love that movie. And this has a very Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves feel to it. It was a weekly show shot in the countryside. It's supposed to be like medieval. It's basically the story of William Tell spread out over 27 hours or so. And it had some Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves actors in it. And I love this. And for decades, this just disappeared completely off the face of the earth. I don't think there were VHS releases. In America, it came on the Family Channel in the 90s. And then after that initial run, just gone, like Kaiser Soze. And so Mill Creek, because of them, I can watch this whenever I want to. Fantastic release. And again, each disc gets its own spindle. Okay, they put out Lords of Dogtown, another newer release. So we've got a slipcover. No different art, but it's a good Heath Ledger skateboard movie. As I'm recording this just came out. This is The Fastest Guns of the West. This is 8 William Castle Westerns, ranging from the 30s to the 50s, mostly the 50s. And if you know this channel, you know that I love 50s Westerns. William Castle, the guy who kind of like made drive-in movies very campy in the 50s. He'd have the gimmicks and stuff, like the electric seats and the 3D, all that stuff. Gimmicky 3D movies, that was William Castle. But before that, he was doing... He did legitimate movies too, and these movies are really great to have. They're all in their original aspect ratio, which is fantastic. Again, before this DVD, really no way to get these movies. Also on the William Castle tip, we got the William Castle double feature. So we got the original 13 Ghosts, 13 Frightened Girls, Homicidal, and Mr. Sardonicus. Again, I don't think there's any typos on these discs, so that's a step up. They put out Pulse, which is a cool horror movie from late 80s, early 90s, 88. I like the art here. I like what they've done. I like the spine. It's just a classy looking DVD or Blu-ray. Crawl, the cult classic from the 80s. This is a good one. This is the what do they call this? The Psycho Circus collection. I've done the reversible cover art. This is The Brotherhood of Satan, Torture Garden, and The Creeping Flesh. Those sound worse than they are. These are 60s and 70s movies. All 3 movies are on one Blu-ray, but they look fine. And it had reversible cover art. So you could use this cover art, or you could use the original, this, which I opted for this. The Sun, Sand, and Sweat collection. What this is Private Resort, Hard Bodies, the first one, Spring Break, and Perfect, the John Travolta, Jamie Lee Curtis movie. Just basically beach movies, skin flicks, I guess. That makes it sound worse than I think they actually are. I think these movies are harmless. But here's another great one. Payback Time, triple feature. We got Blind Fury with Rutger Hauer, where he's like the blind, basically like a blind ninja swordsman who learned martial arts and like the art of ninja from his time in the Far East. We have Silent Rage with Chuck Norris, which is a fantastic movie. Super intense. It's almost a horror movie. Like if you want to see Chuck Norris in a horror setting, Silent Rage. And then White Line Fever with Jan Michael Vincent from Airwolf, which is basically like a truck driver revenge movie from the 70s. Fantastic stuff. They put out the complete Dungeons and Dragons after this went out of print from the original release. All of the episodes are here. There's no special features, but I believe there was an audio glitch that was in the original release, and it's been fixed for this release. Okay, now let's talk about some more 50s Westerns. They put out the Durango Kid collection, there's like 50 Durango Kid movies. They were B movies. They were, less than an hour. They're about 45, 50 minutes long. And these would play with bigger features. So in the 50s, you could plop down your money and you get to see a whole range of stuff. they put out the 7 Western Showdown collection, which, you know, these things sound generic, but it's actually more 50s Westerns. Gun Fury, The Black Dakotas, The Man from Colorado, and really good stuff on here. Again, original aspect ratios. The Randolph Scott Roundup part, is this 2? Well, there's 2 of them. So there's the Randolph Scott Roundup parts 1 and part 2. These are, Randolph Scott was huge, you guys, and his best movies for me was Ride the High Country, which is like his swan song, and it's a classic. But before that, he was working with a guy called Bud Bedecker, who was a filmmaker who he just made really great westerns. They were B-westerns. They didn't have big budgets. They were very small. But you want to talk about gritty, and there's some stuff with Lee Marvin, just really hard-boiled, almost noir, but in a Western setting. And that's what these are. There was a Bud Bedecker box set that went out of print. Those movies were almost impossible to find, and Mill Creek has made them very accessible. Again, original aspect ratios. I like on the back of the packages, I don't know if this shows up with the glare and everything, but you can see the original art, like the original poster art for those. These are the last 2 things that I'm going to talk about with you guys. Okay, for instance, I Dream of Jeannie. I have the complete series of I Dream of Jeannie from the original, Sony, maybe, I think is who put it out, that release, and the first 2 seasons, just the first season, was colorized. On the main distributor's box set, it's colorized. And I'm not really cool with that. I'm all about the original presentation. And so Mill Creek has a complete series set, but they also put this out, which is I Dream of Jeannie, Season 1, proudly presented in classic black and white. So as it stands right now, as I'm making this video, the only way to get I Dream of Jeannie, the season that is originally black and white, in its original presentation, is through this Mill Creek set right here. Similarly, Bewitched, the first 2 seasons were black and white. You pick up the complete series box set, at least the original one, the one that I have, the first 2 seasons have been colorized, so that, you know, I guess they did that for syndication, I don't know, but here, seasons 1 and 2, proudly presented, classic black and white. So hopefully you can see that we've gone from the 50 movie packs with, like, you know, martial arts and public domain stuff to legitimate pop culture preservation. I'm talking about, you know, this stuff right here, like Blind Fury, like Last Action Hero, the Van Damme movies, TV shows like SWAT. And when high definition materials are available, we get things like That 70s Show and Knight Rider. And they're not perfect. I understand they're not perfect. They might have too many episodes on a disc. They might have, you know, a lot of their stuff, until recently, none of Mill Creek's stuff had subtitles, which I know for a lot of people is a problem. They have started putting subtitles on things, but then I think their latest releases, like the last month or so, there are no subtitles. Like I think on the Charles Bronson collection, no subtitles. Unfortunately, also with the Charles Bronson Blu-rays, this is a thing. So there has been a replacement for this, but the discs are mislabeled. So there's 4 movies on here. There's 2 movies on each Blu-ray, which is fine. That's not a ton of compression. It's fine. This one is labeled correctly, I believe. The movies might actually be reversed, but this one has all 4 movies on it. And all 4 movies are not on this disc. So it's a mistake, and this is a brand new release. So guys, that's it. I really just wanted to highlight how I think that, you know, pop culture preservationists. I don't know how you could argue that. They're giving us, you know, stuff like no one else put out Quantum Leap. Mill Creek is the company that's choosing to put these things out rather than these just languishing on DVD or on streaming with the streaming rights in flux with what can and can't be on Netflix this month. Here we go. We can own it at a budget price because of Mill Creek, and that makes me, it really makes me love them. I know they're not perfect, and I know that there is often room for improvement, but I think that they're working hard to do that. So thanks for watching this video, guys. This has been my complete Mill Creek collection. Next month it'll be different because I'll have even more Mill Creek, I'm sure. But if you like this video, if you found it informative, please give it a thumbs up so other people can discover this content. Head over to serialatmidnight.com and check out all the cool stuff we got going on over there. And really, that's it. I appreciate your time. I appreciate you. Please be a part of the community. If you're interested in any of this stuff, I'm going to put a few links in the description of this video. And if you click through those links and you buy any of this stuff, you will be helping the channel. There's also a link at cerealatmidnight.com to Amazon. Anything that you buy helps the channel. It's just a few cents, but if you see anything here that you want and you want to buy it, you would be helping the channel out. So thanks again for your time, and I will catch you later.